So we now have a lot of free storage. We have 335 gigabytes free. So what if you want to install, dare I mention it, the other OS? Should we call it the other OS? We'll not call it Windows. The other OS. The OS that shall not be named. So what we'll need to do is we'll need to boot back into our recovery disk, which if you didn't watch the first part, then maybe you can check out the guide up here. So simply power off. And we're going to need to partition our drive first. So take the SD card that we put the SteamOS image on and stick it into the deck. And once it's in, hold the minus button and the power on. And that should bring us to this menu. And our recovery disk is not there. This has happened to me before when the recovery image just seems to be one use. Strangely, every time I fire up a recovery image, it works one time and then it never works again. That is really, 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 really annoying. So annoyingly, I had to burn that off yet again. It seems to be single use, this recovery image these days. I don't know why, but every time I burn it onto a USB stick or an SD card, it only works once. But anyway, so inserted it into the USB slot, minus and power on, and hopefully it should appear now in this list, and it does. And then come down to AFI SD MMC card. So we're now in the SteamOS recovery, and the reason we need to be here is because we cannot resize a live partition, and that's why we're in here, because we want to resize our home partition. And we're going to go to System and KDE Partition Manager. Try and make that bigger without closing it. There we go. And we need to come to our SSD, which is here, and you can just click on our home partition. And we are going to resize it, and we need to decide how big it's going to be. These numbers I'm going to pick are completely arbitrary, so it's up to you really. I'm just going to bring up the keyboard, and does the Steam Recovery not have an on-screen keyboard? Of course it doesn't. So this is going to be a little bit more difficult without an on-screen keyboard. Alright, how can we do this then? Can we resize just by dragging the damn thing? Okay, we're going to resize it by just dragging, hopefully. Is it going to let us drag? Right, I managed just to slide it somehow. This is not going to be easy, okay? I guess approximately 200 gigabytes is going to be enough. Screw it, that'll do. So that's resized, and then we've got a lot of unallocated space, and we're going to need to create a new partition. So I am just going to click on, can we create NTFS? We can create NTFS. I'm going to create an NTFS drive, and I want that to leave me, again, approximately 200 gigabytes free. So hopefully I can just grab this. I just got it, right. My fingers are just too fat, so I want to have about 200 gigs free afterwards. Come on. So I just managed it, right. So the size of this NTFS partition will be about 500 gigabytes-ish. And after that is going to be 200 free. Approximately. If you've got a keyboard and mouse, you can set these properly. You can set them to what you want. So this first partition will be our home partition, which will have a maximum of 200 gigabytes. Then there'll be a big free space here, which will be a new partition of NTFS. This will be our shared drive, so that both SteamOS and Windows can use everything in this drive. That's why I made it so big. And then at the end, I'm giving Windows 200 gigabytes-ish. Whatever you choose is up to you. You could give 128 to the SteamOS, you could give 128 to the Windows. It really depends on how much you want to use it. But basically, all of our Windows games are going to be here and shared between both systems. So there shouldn't be so much on either one. So it's only going to be games that have basically in SteamOS's case, if it's got a native Linux build, then we'll put it all on the X4 drive. And for Windows, some Windows Store games will only let you install on the C drive. So that will be our C drive. I'm happy with that. I'm going to click apply. Or try. This screen is crap. Apply. Yes. So if you've got a keyboard and mouse, you could make that a little bit more accurate. You could make them 200 gigabytes each. You could make them 128 each. Windows. Originally I had Windows running on an 80 gigabyte drive and basically was struggling for space. It was absolutely at the maximum all the time. So I would recommend at least 128 for Windows. For the SteamOS, again, minimum 128. But if you want to give it a bit more leeway like I have, then that's completely fine. We should now have an NTFS drive, which is 550 gigabytes-ish. And our home drive is now 200 gigabytes on the SteamOS side, and the end bit, which is unallocated at the moment, will become Windows 11. And now we will just need to turn off, shut down.
So originally at this point, I fired SteamOS back up and then downloaded the ISO of Windows 11 directly from the Microsoft site and then used Etcher to burn that onto an SD card. Unfortunately, this doesn't work. It seems that the ISO that Microsoft provide from the website doesn't contain the right drivers for either the SD card or maybe even the controller. Something's not right. There's some missing drivers on that ISO that will not let you install Windows 11. I have actually run into this problem before on my own PC, and it seems the only way around this is to download the Windows Media Creation tool on a Windows machine and burn it from there, because that has all the updated drivers on, and then that will allow you to install it on the deck, which is really annoying that you can't do this directly from Linux. Maybe if you download the ISO from a different website, whether that's trusted or not is up to you, or one of the other like micro Windows type distributions like Tiny 11, or I forget what else there is, but I'm sure there are more. You could try one of those, that is entirely up to you, but I had to do it directly from my Windows PC, so there we are. I'm going to shut up.
So let's try this again. This SD card has been made from Windows, so it should have had all the updates, so hopefully it has the right drivers for the hard drive, I guess, or the hard drive controller, whatever the problem is. Next, install now. So it's asking for a product key. I don't have one because I'll sign in, and I do have one, so it will pick it up automatically from my Microsoft account. And I want to install, I think my spare key is a home license, so I will install home. I do accept the conditions, and I want to do a custom install, and I want it to install down here on drive 0 unallocated space, which will be partition 10. I don't know how well you can see that from here, so hopefully, but that's our 197 gigabytes space we left free earlier, and I'm going to click that, and I'm going to click next. And now Windows is installing. So booting direct from the ISO doesn't work, so you cannot do this directly from Linux, which is really annoying. So you are going to need a Windows PC to do this, so you have to borrow someone else's PC, or if you've got your own PC, then you have to do it from there. But yeah, that is kind of annoying, but that's just how it is. Windows Media Creation tool, you're gonna have to use it. It's simply a case of going through the Windows installation sideways, obviously, thanks Windows. I want United Kingdom layout, yes. No, I don't want to add a new keyboard. So luckily Windows inbuilt keyboard is better than SteamOS. Strangely. So we're now in Windows, and we are going to need to change that landscape mode because it is well annoying. Let's go to settings, go to display, and we need to change the orientation to landscape. Yeah, okay. And that looks a bit more better. So let's just have a look at our folder structure. we do have our EFIs are showing up. We should get rid of those really, but our local drive is F. So I'm now just going to let that install a hell of a lot of updates, and then I will install the drivers and stuff.
So that's it for this video. In the next one, I will run through configuring Windows a little bit, and the one after that, and more importantly, I will go through configuring the shared drive in both SteamOS and Windows, so you can use most of your games in both OSs from a shared drive.